Hello my astrology friends, welcome to May 2025 astrological predictions. In this video I will look at an overview of what to expect in May, what planets are dominating the sky, what zodiac signs are going to be affected. I will look at an overview and then I'm going to look at the 12 zodiac signs from your sun signs and your rising signs, combining the two to look at the planetary activity for the month of May 2025. If you like this video, then press the like button and please become a subscriber. It all helps to spread the word of astrology. Right, let's get to it. Now, first of all, I want to take a look at the overview of what to expect and what planets are hitting which zodiac signs and the key dates to look out for. So the first major contribution is Pluto. So Pluto is going to start to go retrograde. That'll be on the 4th of May. Now that's really kind of significant. It's been in Aquarius since November, traveling quite nicely. It's going to go retrograde. And if you're an Aquarius, particularly born around about the 20th, 21st and 22nd of January, then you are going to be affected by this. Also, if you're a Leo born right at the beginning of the sun in Libra, then you are going to be affected. It's significant about power battles, facing one's fears, overcoming situations that you feel that you do not have control over when in fact you do. And Pluto always gives power. So that for me is a significant change that's going to occur really kind of early on, the Pluto retrograde. And that'll be retrograde for some time. So, you know, we have to get used to it. On the 12th of May, we've got a full moon at 22 degrees in Scorpio. Now, the first thing is we have got a loose opposition with the planet Uranus. So this is a bit of an unpredictable moon that we have full moon taking place because of the Uranus situation. This has been ongoing actually, where we've had a lot of moon and new moons and full moons that have had the energy of Uranus, which always brings in a kind of sense of a little bit of chaos or anxiety from a collective level that we have to kind of deal with. So really just look out for those dates, particularly the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th. You know, the moon is not comfortable in Scorpio. It does not bode well. It's in its fall. So therefore, it's not going to be a so much of a positive. I would say it's going to be emotions that are sort of held in and then explode, which means that you know, this could be very good for the therapeutic process for a lot of us, but particularly if you've got a high degree of Taurus and Scorpio in your chart, around with planets around about 20, 21 degrees, 22 degrees, 23 degrees, then you are going to be affected by this particular full moon. It's going to be a little bit heavy and a little bit emotional, and you could feel that your energy levels are a little bit tetchy and you want to do something. You want to have an impact and you feel like you can't. But with the Uranus energy, it could make you suddenly spin off. It's about grounding. It's about maintaining that self-discipline is going to be really kind of important. But here's the big astrological news. On the 25th of May, for the first time in 29 years and 4 months, Saturn, the planet of society, I call it, you know, because us human beings, we've constructed time, we construct the rules, regulations, or at least the government institutions do. It's about structure, it's about the morals, the ethics, and that comes under the jurisdiction of Saturn. And Saturn on the 25th of May is going to go into Aries. So that is like significant development. If for the last 2.5 years it's been transiting through Pisces, the end of the astrological cycle, and then suddenly it's going to be going into the start of the astrological cycle into Aries. What can we expect from that combination? Restructuring with how we deal with society in terms of new beginnings, a new sense of societal structure starting to take place, And when I say that, what I mean is over the next 30 years. So if you look back at the last 30 years, you will see that the changes that have been from a political, economic basis, we've just come to the end of a cycle. Now, whenever a planet moves from one zodiac sign to another, before it moves into that zodiac sign, you always begin to see the changes a couple of months before it actually enters in, which if we look at April and March, we can see that there has been significant developments and changes, and the world view seems to have changed and economics are changing. So we can begin to see that. As Saturn goes into Aries, it will start to settle, but not straight away, because Saturn is going to go back into Pisces later in the year. So it will just get in a little bit of the themes that might play out over the next 2.5 years, beginning to play out or starting to see those themes. And I think we're already doing that here. This is going to be, how can I say it, a place that if you're an entrepreneur or have your own business, then this is going to be really good for that. Putting structure in yourself, putting plans in place to grow your business or to have an idea of what kind of business that you want to do. It is the combination of the entrepreneur. So that's going to play out over a couple of years. So what we will start to see with this and how it affects individual signs, I will briefly go into on this video later on. But significantly, it is a real time of, restructuring that's taking place. Remember, Aries about conquering, about being bold and brave with decisions, and being slightly impulsive and being slightly selfish, dare I say. So the combination of this kind of, Saturn, which loves restrictions and loves work, going into the impulsive zodiac sign of Aries, is actually really kind of significant, because it's like two opposing forces. And what we've found over the last 2.5 years as Saturn's been going through Pisces is that the nebulous and the non-boundaries, actually that's starting to be put back together a little bit now. And we will have much more of a clear and clarity to do with, going forward, instead of this kind of slightly nebulous energy that we've been involved in. But now it's going to go into Saturn. Saturn's going to go into Aries. There's a different template that we're going to be working from, and people who are in charge are going to come through that are going to have a different agenda and will want to be much more forceful in opinions, will want to be more impulsive, and more about conquering what is beyond us, and more about starting up new economic principles, which will have an impact on all of us. So the more independent in thought and the way you construct your life, then this will actually kind of help you. But if you're very much a person who likes the way things are, or finds it difficult to make changes, then you might have to remain quite grounded in this particular time. But also, celebrate your individuality and use it to your advantage, and actually moving yourself forward in what you want to achieve in life. Going to be hugely important. So that's on the 25th. Then we've got a new moon on the 27th of May, and that's at 6 degrees in Gemini. And also just before that, Mercury enters Gemini. So we're going into the Geminian time of year right at the end of May. But, more importantly, that new moon is having quite an aspect. It's actually sextiling Saturn, is sextiling Neptune as well. So it's quite a nice one. It's quite a nice kind of feeling about it in terms of communication and short distance travel, and the ability for us to, communicate our needs, our intellectual needs, to other people in a really nice, direct way. So that's got a good kind of energy to it that we're going to be working towards. And you know what? There's a lot of planets that are moving forward this particular month. It's only really that Pluto, as I said earlier, that's retrograde. That goes on for the 4th. And that remains retrograde till mid-October of this year. So when we got a lot of planets moving forward, it means that the pace of life becomes much more active. So for the last couple of months, we've had Venus and Mercury retrograde. But now all the planets are moving forward. Mars That's safely in Leo now. Jupiter is still going quickly through Gemini, and Venus is going quickly now through Aries. So we've got a lot of that kind of a fiery energy that's taking place. And that's accentuated by obviously Saturn going into Aries on the 25th. So what do I think for this month? Lots going to happen in a short space of time, and it's very, very active. I mean, when the sun is in Taurus, it's all about kind of remaining that grounded energy. That's kind of really important. But I also feel like there is a kind of sense of stability, or a little bit more stable than we've had. And because also, don't forget, Neptune is traveling through Aries. And this makes me come to the next big thing. So there is a conjunction between the planet Saturn and Neptune that's sort of forming here. That kind of goes into June. And this doesn't happen often. So these planets are in Aries. So there is a new vision of society that is being created this time. So when I say a new vision, I mean basically a seed of an idea of how society is going to move forward. Saturn is the planet society, Neptune is the visionary. If we get this right in Aries, cardinal sign, then we'll kind of know, okay, this is the route we're going. And, you know, Aries is ruled by Mars. So, you know, it's not going to be like seamless. There is a bit of tension in this, you know. You have to crack a few eggs to make an omelette. But to me, like, there is this kind of vision emerging. How that vision is, and I'm talking from a collective, but I'm also talking individually as well, for you out there, for you viewers. There's something just occurring that's going to change how you view your world, and what you want to bring into your world is going to really be a big thing. So you can see the huge potential of that particular aspect of the conjunction between Saturn and Neptune, which does not happen often. Okay, so let's go into the 12 signs of the zodiac for May 2025. And of course, I'm going to start off with Aries, and this is for Aries sun sign and Aries rising. Wow, so much is going on with you, Aries, this month. Yes, at the end of the month, you've got Saturn, the great disciplinarian, coming into your own sign. You've got Neptune now traveling. You've got Venus as well that's occurring in your own sign. Mercury for the first week and a half is also in your own sign. There's a lot of planetary activity, which means you're in for a very, very busy time. But I'm also looking at that energy of Saturn coming towards you and wanting restructuring and wanting to put things in place, particularly with your career being hugely important for you, and how you deal with that. You know, if you're thinking of going much more independent in your career or doing your own thing, then this is going to be a significant time for you. You've also got, at the end of the month, a conjunction between Saturn and Neptune. And if you're born at the beginning of Aries, 20th, 21st, 22nd of March, then, whoa, this is a very, very busy period for you. You know, it's about trying to create a vision for yourself, but also trying to remain quite stable and calm with it here. It could be that you're all at sixes and sevens, all feeling that. All that's happening is a bit of an energetic shift that's taking place, that if you can hold on to that and work with it, the potential is so much for you. It really is. This is also kind of the last stages of Uranus being in your second house for a while, which is your financial. So, you know, you'd be looking at how you manage your money and what you want for the future in terms of your money and the finances you have. So there's a huge potential to get out of this. Is there any kind of what we'd say banana skins? Well, you know, Pluto is going retrograde in your 11th house. So that's about connecting with friendships and groups and stuff like that. So you might have to take a step back. If you're trying to encourage other people to join you on your vision and your mission, then you might have to be a little bit more patient with that. But as far as I can see, you know, particularly from the middle of the month, this is really about you guys going out there and creating a level of materialism and manifestation that is going to be the template for your future. Saturn wants you to work hard. Saturn will reward you like no other planet. But it just doesn't reward you straight away. It takes its time. You've got to put in the work. If you put in the work, you get the reward from Saturn. And I think for a lot of you Aries, that's the way that you should be thinking, particularly this month, May 2025. Okay, let's move on to Taurus. Taurus sun sign, Taurus rising. Okay, Taurians, yeah, okay, still Uranus. Uranus is right at the end. It starts off at 26 degrees in Taurus and ends at 28 degrees. So we're coming to the end of that Uranus cycle here for you. For a majority of you, the sun is in Taurus, so it's your birthday month. And, you know, this is a time of looking at what you've sort of developed so far in the first 5 minutes of the year. Is it working for you? Do you need to work a bit harder? Do you need to look at the stability of it? Particularly, I think for a lot of you, you've got also Mars that's in Leo, and that's in your 4th house, which is the house of family or the home environment. So you might find there's a lot of energy being pulled in that direction that you've got to deal with. That could be a little bit tension. It's about being diplomatic. It's about not being impulsive. Taurians notoriously are quite patient people, but they can explode. You know, not often, but when they do, and everyone better get out of the way. But in that Mars aspect, I think that people just have to be aware of not prodding the bull too much. You know, don't overuse the patience here. You've still got that Uranus energy that's taking place. Also, you know, Pluto's going retrograde in your 10th house, the house of your career. So there's an element here of taking a step back with career moves and stuff like that. You're stepping a bit more into your power and being a bit more confident about who you are and the direction you are going in into your career. It just means that this month you need to take a little bit of step back and make sure that everything's in place before you move on to the next level, which will be in mid-October. It doesn't mean that things are going to be really quiet with your career, far from it. It just means that you're sort of going over things that you've already done just to make sure that they're solid and secure. And those two words, Taurians love. Okay, let's move on to Gemini, sun sign, and Gemini rising. Okay, so for you Geminis, interesting because your ruler Mercury goes through 3 signs of the zodiac this month. Starts off in Aries, in the middle of the month goes into Taurus, and then around about the 25th, 26th will go into your own sign. So when Mercury moves quickly like this, things move quickly, which really benefits the Gemini. Also, majority of you are being affected by Jupiter. Jupiter in your own sign. It starts off at 21 degrees at the beginning of the month and ends about 27 degrees. So that's you born towards the last 10 degrees of the Gemini sun that is affected, or the last 10 degrees of a Gemini rising that's been affected. It means there's a lot of expansion happening here. Maybe opportunity for travel, maybe also a kind of sense of retraining or education or learning, taking new information. But there's a lot of activity happening around you, and that's increased by the presence of Mercury toward the end of the month here as well. What's interesting is the Saturn factor. So the Saturn factor is a big thing because it on the 25th it's moving into your 11th house, and the 11th house is all about groups and friendships, your hopes, your dreams, wishes, and also the money that you get from an employer if you're employed by someone, and therefore wherever Saturn goes is whichever house it goes into is the area in life for the next 2.5 years where you'll be working a little bit harder to achieve. So it might mean that you're working on friendships a little bit better, putting structure and boundaries in place. It might mean that you're having to work with groups and being less individualistic in the way that you behave and the way that your personality is. You know, Geminis are notoriously known as a little bit of the butterflies of the zodiac, and in one way I do agree with that to some extent. You know, they like movement, they like to move from one thing to another. And what's important, I feel, is that there's going to be less of that. That actually you're going to have to stick to one or two groups, or even, dare I say, amalgamate groups or friendships groups together, and have them less separate. Because Geminis get a little bit bored and stuff like that as well, you're going to have to rely on people a lot more than you normally would. So you know, that takes a little bit of adjustment. You've also got Neptune in there as well, which means that you're going to have people coming towards you that perhaps have ulterior motives, or that can help you in unusual ways to help your career progress. But you don't want to take on too many of the waifs and strays too much to you, because they will have this nebulous energy that Geminis will not appreciate. But for May, this month, it's a very busy month. Okay, let's go to Cancer, Cancer sun sign, Cancer rising. Okay, so Cancerians, let's take a look at this. First of all, let's take a look at the Saturn factor, because that obviously is important, you know, particularly for Cancers. And the reason why is because on the 25th, the planet Saturn moves into your 10th house, which is your career house. And Saturn loves the 10th house, loves to be in a 10th house. So the thing about that is that the next 2.5 years, you're going to be working extremely hard in creating a stable environment in your work, or given more responsibilities, or certainly much more duty bound in your energy. And therefore, you're going to feel like you belong. And that's something that is really, really important to the Cancerian energy, that they feel that they can belong somewhere. So that's really important. The other thing is that Mars is in your second house. So that's the house of finance. So you are working towards trying to gain some financial stability, and you're working hard at the moment. There's negotiations around you. There's things that you have to talk about in terms of your financial aspect and how you earn your money. Whether you're employed or self-employed, those factors are coming in quite a lot. But what it's doing is actually setting the tone for this Saturn transiting in your 10th house. And I think that for a lot of Cancerians, it's a bit like treading water in May. You know, there's a lot of negotiations, a lot of ifs and buts regarding, particularly in your career, that's taking place here. And this is sort of preparing you, obviously, for June, because the planet Jupiter is going to ingress into your own sign, your zodiac sign, and it will be there for 11.5 months. So for a majority of you, it's the preparation of things expanding. But initially, what you've got dealing with is this Saturn factors trying to put a structure in place. Also, you're dealing with Neptune in your 10th house, which is kind of dreamy energy that doesn't like boundaries, and it's suddenly in the 10th house. So you might be thinking about, I want to do a job that's a bit more humanitarian. I want to work for a charity. I would like to look at my spirituality journey, or have a business within spirituality or creativity. These things are just coming into place. Saturn's going to come along and go, well, if you want to do that, how are you going to do it? Let's put it into practice, because you'll have the tools available to you. You just need the self-discipline. Okay, let's go on to Leo sun sign and Leo rising. Okay, guys, you've got that Mars traveling for the month of May in your own sign of zodiac. I kind of like Mars in Leo. It can do something. Obviously, you know, Leo is a fixed sign, and therefore, yeah, Mars can work well, as long as you do not go overboard here. The other significant thing on the 4th is that the planet Pluto is retrograde in your opposite sign, your 7th solar house. And that, to me, is withdrawn the energy of any power battles or relationship issues that you've been involved in are starting to dissipate for you. You won't feel this intensity that perhaps you felt, or you felt that you have been swamped by another person's emotions as much as you have done. Certainly since November of last year. The things are a little bit easier on that front. And the Mars gives you the self-confidence. It gives you the ability to kind of go, right, okay, I know what I'm doing, I'm going for it. So that's really significant. The other thing is that you've got the planet Saturn going into your 9th house, which is the house of higher education and travel and higher knowledge and publishing and morals and ethics and all of those funky things. Now, Saturn's just going to put a self-discipline on those. What does that mean? It means that you might begin to have a way of life that takes place, like, for example, you know, a spiritual practice, say like Buddhism or meditation or yoga, that you become much more disciplined in. And you stick to, and you do it in a routine way, and it builds up that energy, and you can work with that energy. That's what I'm sort of talking about here for you, because ultimately that's started to happen. You've been last few weeks searching, where do I fit in, where can I go, all this kind of stuff, and it's beginning to take place. That there's on a soul level, there's this, I want to find the meaning of things much more, and I want to have a relationship with something bigger than me, and how do I go about that? And you know what, I think May might be the month where you start to actually focus on 1 or 2 disciplines that give you that feeling. Okay, Virgo Sun and Virgo Rising. Yeah, Mercury, your ruler, is moving very, very quickly through 3 signs of the zodiac. Aries at the beginning, then Taurus, then Gemini, keeping you very, very busy. It's that the last week of the month that becomes the busiest, because Mercury goes into your 10th house, your career house. So that really ramps up career matters here for you. You've got Jupiter in there, traveling still in there, and that's definitely given you lots of food for thought since May of last year. Lots of opportunities have come in for Virgos, maybe not quite settled as you would like. So you'd expect this time to maybe things to have a clarity, go, okay, that worked and that doesn't. I can move forward with that, but with that I can't. I think that's what a majority of this month is going to be for Virgos. It's that kind of sense of what will work and what won't work for me. And some of those opportunities will be full of hot air and nothing will come about them. And then some of them will start to materialize and start to manifest. You'll be going, right, okay, that's the direction I should go into. This is a very important month for the Virgos, Virgo Suns and Virgo Rising. It's when you begin to solidify things much more and know which direction you are starting to engage with for the near future. And it's been a little bit turbulent, exciting maybe, and inspiring and expansive, but now we're getting to that nitty-gritty, going, okay, what is it that's going to work, you know, for me, and who's going to invest in me? And this is brings in that nature of the planet Saturn moving into your 8th house, which is the 8th house is what other people invest in us, whether it's financial, whether it's energy, whether it's support, whatever it is. And Saturn's kind of going, I need to put structure in myself so that other people feel that they want to put that investment in me. You know, get that right, and that opens up a whole different ball game for you. And that's the exciting aspect that's taking place for Virgos. Okay, Libra sun sign, Libra rising. Your ruler Venus is all the way through May is in your 7th solar house, the house of relationships. It enjoys being in the 7th house. It's in its rulership. However, it finds it very difficult. It's in detriment in Aries. So there's a little bit of take and a little bit of give and all that kind of energy going on here. Relationships, again, you know, are you being diplomatic? Are you saying the right things? Or are you being impulsive and a little bit touchy with someone or other people around you at this particular time period? It's getting it right. Essentially, Venus wants to, doesn't want conflict. But in Aries, it kind of does, but it doesn't. I know that's a contradiction, and it is, because that's the energy you're dealing with. And if you, but as Librans, you prefer not to have the conflict. But then Librans are very, very good at kind of, how can I say this, creating conflict and then putting it back together, because it makes them feel kind of useful, the role in life, like, you know, and they're quite good at that. So there's a bit of that kind of going on that's taking place, and that has to be, you know, seen as something that is probably a little bit challenging, but then we're preparing for quite a bit of energy taking place. For example, you've got next month, you're going to have Jupiter going into your 10th house, which is the house of career. So there's going to be a lot of focus of being seen and stuff like that, and things moving in that direction. But let's look at another planet here, which is Saturn moving into your 7th solar house on the 25th. You know, for me, this is like Saturn likes the 7th house. It's exalted in the 7th house, but it does put an emphasis on putting structure on how you deal with other people, and important people stepping in, more mature people stepping into your life, supporting you. And certainly if you're born at the early degrees of Libra, then you're going to start to feel that. You've got Neptune in there. So Neptune's kind of slightly dissolving your sense of self, or bringing in a kind of energy that is otherworldly to you. And it's great if you're creative, but if you're not, then, you know, you might be hit by a kind of feeling of a need to escape from the modernity of life. Or so I think that there's a kind of a sense of escapism could come in here, and that could be used positively or negatively. It depends on the individual. And then Saturn's coming in there. It's a busy kind of period coming up for Librans. A lot's going to come up. Librans have been relatively quiet of recently, but things are going to get very interesting. And this month's a kind of building up to that, and how they're going to deal with that, and how they're going to respond to that energy. So they're going to feel a little bit, a bit of ebb and flow about them, and not quite knowing where they're going to go. But decisions need to be made moving forward. They've got to be bold with the decisions. It's that Aries energy coming in. Okay, let's go to Scorpio, sun sign, Scorpio rising. So your traditional ruler is the planet Mars, and that is in your 10th house. So this is a career month for you, traveling in the 10th house, focusing on that. Mars doesn't really like to be above the horizon. It's a nocturnal planet, and it is above the horizon. And that means that you don't want other people to see your motivations, and being a Scorpio, you will not. But people are seeing your motivations, and you've got to be bold with that. Your modern ruler is in your 4th house, and it goes retrograde from the 4th. So the withdrawal of energy, it's almost like being quite secretive, but not being able to because of the Mars factor. And I think this is where it's sort of very up and down for you. A lot of focus on the home, a lot of focus on the career, trying to get a balance. So Scorpio's going to feel a little bit all over the place. Plus they got the sun in the 7th house, which is the house of relationships. So there's a focus on that. So they may feel like they're pulled in too many different directions all at once during this particular stage. And you know what? They are being. But doesn't mean that that's kind of like permanent and that's what it's going to be like. It means that they're in for a little bit of a busy month that's taking place here. And, you know, that's okay. Saturn, as on the 25th, ingresses into the 6th house. And that's the house of health and service to others and working environment. So health matters might have to be much more disciplined. Working environment might have to put more structure in it. Scorpios don't have a real kind of problem with that. But as I said, it's the Mars aspect that's really showing itself. And for a lot of people, people are just going to feel like, oh yeah, they know where you're coming from. And you will feel additionally uncomfortable with that. Don't. Because really, some people are just second guessing you or thinking. But you know, by the time we get into next month, then things begin to change. Okay, let's go on to Sagittarius sun sign, Sagittarius rising. Okay, I said it quite a few times. The Jupiter factor is still in your 7th house. Still a lot of other people coming into your life that are expanding and helping you move forward. Mars is in Leo, which is interesting because it's in your 9th house, which is the house of travel and engagement with the higher knowledge and stuff like that. So that's quite an exciting time, because that makes a trine aspect to your ascendant degree, which means that things can kind of move forward for you. But let's look at the Saturn factor, for you. So Saturn is going to go into your 5th house and meet up with Neptune that's traveling in your 5th house. So the 5th house is like, I call it the teenage house. It's the house where we find our individuality. It's the house where we kind of express ourselves. It's the house of joy, of romance, of art galleries, of restaurants, of pleasure, of sport, playtime. It's that, the focus. So Saturn in there is when Saturn transits in that house, it always brings about a kind of want to concentrate on energy or be self-disciplined in the creative or self-expressive, and really kind of begin to focus much more on that side of your life rather than you've done in the past, perhaps, because you've been focused a lot on other people, and also you've had the Saturn factor in your 4th house, which is never comfortable for the last 2.5 years. So that's responsibilities with the home and family. So you are kind of moving away from that, which Sagittarius will be pleased at. But at the same time, it will take you a while to get used to that energy. You might feel, oh my God, am I being selfish? You're not. It's just that it takes a while for that energy to kind of move into the direction that you kind of want and to embrace it. That happens on the 25th of May. So that's basically towards the end. But for a majority of you, you'll kind of begin to feel that sort of less feeling heavy, and more about wanting to concentrate on yourself and your own development. Okay, Capricorn Sun, Capricorn Rising. Okay, your ruler Saturn, big move, because it is moving into your 4th house, the house of the home, the family, the security, the inner you, the ancestors. That happens on the 25th. That's going to be there in and out for about 2.5 years. Really kind of important that you remain grounded, that you committed to the home environment, that you are thinking about building or reconstructing. But if you feel like a heavy responsibility around family members, that becomes part of it. They call it the Lord of Karma for a reason, Saturn. It brings about cycles and the element of seeing things from a different perspective. So you may feel it as responsibilities, or there's certainly much more projection going on from other people that's coming into you, that you kind of feel, I have to be this way, I have to be that way, I have to be solid. Now, Capricorns normally take that on very, very well, but there is a kind of feeling of like, it could initially feel like it's a bit overwhelming. It's not going to be, but it just might feel that way. And that's what you just have to be kind of careful of, because it is kind of strong. The other thing is that the planet Pluto is just going retrograde on the 4th in your 2nd house, which is the house of finances. So it's about checking in with that. What have you done since November last year? Has that kind of worked in your favor, or is it slightly difficult? Do you need to rearrange that? When you're dealing with Pluto, you're dealing with something to do with facing one's fears, or certainly getting power and energy from within, or strong energy. So this could be about how you value yourself and the contribution you make to the world and the money that you earn from it, being a focal point for May of this month. Okay, let's move on to Aquarius Sun or Aquarius Rising. So, that Pluto moving retrograde from the 4th, certainly if an early degrees Aquarius, then you're going to sort of feel that. It's not going to feel as intense, or the transformation's not as heavy as it has been. But I think for a lot of Aquarians, it's kind of a little bit of a stopback gap for this month. The Sun is transiting for the majority of the month in your 4th house, which should be nice with the home and the family. You've still got Uranus in there. But let's look at Neptune, and let's look at Saturn, because Neptune is in the 3rd house, the house of communication, and Saturn on the 25th will join that Neptune. And how effectively do you communicate with others? I think for a lot of Aquarians are going to find out things about themselves, about how they deal with life and how they communicate with others, which means that they've got to put a lot more structure into their everyday life. And be much more self-disciplined than they have been, and face one's fears. you know, Aquarians do not, as a rule, do not like to be told what to do. They hate it, in fact. They'll just sort of nod and go, yeah, yeah, and then they'll just do the opposite. And I think this is a time period with Saturn that they're going to have to learn to listen to other people and use their own faults in a positive way, or see it in a positive way. And stop being detached about it, you know. So there is things that are coming up to the surface. If they've got issues about the early education, then Saturn's going to bring those issues up that they have to deal with over the next couple of years. And this, at this point, some of those stuff might be just coming up to the surface that they need to deal with. It's setting them up, really, so that they communicate much more effectively with those around them in a much more positive way that helps them to move forward in life. Okay, Pisces Sun and Pisces Rising. Okay, so Neptune is finally is moved now into Aries. So for a lot of you, it's just settling down. Let's talk about Saturn. If you're born right at the end of Pisces, you know, particularly the 19th, 20th, then you're getting the full effect of the strong energy of Neptune until the 25th of Saturn. Sorry, that's very Neptune, isn't it? Of Saturn, and then on the 25th, Saturn moves into Aries, which is your solar second house, the house of finance. Pisces, decisions about financial matters are crucial now. Pisces likes to go in many different directions, but it may find that Saturn over the next couple of years is going to teach it to kind of go, you can't necessarily do that. We need to see something tangible coming out now. We need to see something practical. We need to focus on what we can actually achieve with your finances. You've got to remain self-disciplined. You've got to remain limited in your worldview. And for Pisces, that's going to feel, no, I don't want that. I like boundless and I don't want to be limited. But, you know, if you get transit in Saturn through the second house right, you have stability. You have a firm foundation. If you're starting a new business, make sure that business is sound. Make sure everything's in place, because it will support you over the next kind of 29-year cycle if you play it really right. But if you go off in too many different directions all at the same time, which Pisces can have a tendency to do, then you're not going to get the benefits of Saturn at all. You've got a lot of that Jupiter energy, which is your traditional ruler as well, in Gemini. And you know, so that's all happening in the 4th house. So there's like lots of wanting to move and stuff like that. It's about to go to the 5th house. It's about to go to the 5th house, which is the house of creativity. So you can begin to see the domino effect, the business, creativity, self-expression being expanded, individualism. This is a really kind of nice, because you've got Neptune off your back. So you're not in kind of this, oh, I would do this, do that. Saturn's giving you a bit of reality check, but in a good way for Pisces. They can get a lot out of this next part, a section of the year. And May is the month that starts to kick-start. Yes, it might be a bit of reality check, and you might have a couple of days where you go, oh, I don't want to do this. But honestly, you get it right, you plan, because when Pisces actually do plan and they remain self-disciplined, they achieve much more than any other sign of the zodiac in a short space of time. It's just consistency they need to keep up, and the enthusiasm for whatever they're going into. And Saturn is there to teach you that. And if you get that right, fantastic. You will benefit. But if you squander it and go too many different directions, you will not benefit, and it will make it much more challenging for you. Listen, guys, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Please like the video and become a subscriber. And I shall speak to all of you, no doubt, very, very soon. Thank you for watching.